ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome into another episode of Infection Podcast, where we attempt to deal with the landscape involving both video games and modern politics. My name is Nick Craig. You can follow me on Twitter at Nicholas M. Craig. Check out our website, infectionpodcast.com. It's a very scary road, and I couldn't do it alone. The guiding light is is joining me as always, Brian Aldridge. Brian, it's a very scary road we're on.
I know. Yes. Well, yeah. Just don't watch the news.
Exactly.
If you want to find me at Voice to Computer on Twitter or at Brian Aldridge on Gab, Getter, Truth Social, and who knows where else in the future. We'll see where the social medias go. So
yeah. Well, I want to start with this big story out of the UK breaking yesterday. It looks like Activision, Blizzard, and Microsoft are coming closer and closer and closer to all being, well, to the chagrin of Sony, one big happy family, Brian. According to details, UK regulators are ready to approve the $68.7 billion deal. They are expected to approve it tomorrow, Wednesday, the 26th, but all documents and all of the paperwork and everything indicates that they are going to get the green light, which at that point leaves just the next big one. There's the group out of Ireland. I don't remember what their name is. And then the Federal Trade Commission, which seemingly isn't going to have a problem with it. So yeah, it seems like we're rapidly approaching this all kind of wrapping up, right?
Yeah, and so that'll be interesting. I've seen so many just back and forth articles of people saying it's a good thing, it's a bad thing. I think overall it'll be a good thing, and I think it's going to bring some interesting games to Game Pass. And I don't know, I'm interested to see what they do with World of Warcraft. But you got to remember that's a $15 a month subscription, which just is not for the casual player. I think once Microsoft owns it, I think you'll start seeing maybe shift that up a little bit and change things. But I miss seeing some good Blizzard games, and maybe they'll start to pump up the number of titles coming out, and just things that some of the old games, maybe that remakes, all this other stuff. I think Microsoft be more apt to do it. Blizzard just put out what they wanted to put out, nothing else. Yeah. They didn't remaster very often. The remaster they did of one of their old games, Warcraft games, was really poorly done. So hopefully this will be a sign for the better, so we can start getting a number of decent products out, because it kind of seems like they've been maintaining what they make, but they haven't been really innovating since the announcement of the purchase.
There's one other thing that's part of this as well that I don't know that we've talked about. We've talked about it. I don't know that we've talked about it a lot. Is that King is also part of this. Blizzard, I think, bought King, or maybe it was Activision, bought King years ago. So
which is a mobile game.
They're the Candy Crush people. I mean, like they are mobile gaming. Yeah.
I think once they're a part of the actual family, and it's not a chance that they may have to walk, because then you got to think, you don't want them to do anything too crazy when there's a chance that it'll get rejected and you have to walk away from each other.
Yeah.
So I don't think Microsoft's really dumping the cash into the organization. I mean, I'm sure there's things happening right now, but I think after this is all finished, it'll be cool to see if they start to announce some new things that they're going to be doing. Well,
and that's exactly, and here's the thing: they're not going to have to. I mean, they're not going to have to dump much in terms of cash into King. I mean, King is incredibly profitable. So that in itself is very interesting. Now, they've got a huge collection and saga of games. They recently released the Crash Bandicoot game that came out a couple of years ago. So that was available, and now you essentially are going to give Microsoft, one of the largest mobile developers in the world, and we know that Microsoft is big on Game Pass, which is streaming, but with all of the IPs that they have from first party, everything now from Activision, everything from Blizzard. I think a lot of folks assumed back in 2016 when Activision Blizzard acquired King that it was going to be like all of these old Activision games were going to happen on mobile. That never really came to fruition. Maybe there's no market for it, Brian. I don't know. It's just that's something that's not really talked about much, is King.
I think Blizzard have some applications they do that are companions to games that they play. And they weren't super well done. And so I think that with King being a part of all that now, you probably see better versions of those apps, maybe side games that kind of are companion side games for a mobile. Like, for instance, World of Warcraft. It'd be really easy for them to turn around and make a companion game that lets you do things while you're not at a computer. Things like that I think would be huge, but I don't think they had the mobile development group to do and pull off something like that and have it actually seem good. So,
yeah,
I think I'm excited.
There's pretty much two ways you handle it. You either leave it alone and just let it do its thing, let it work on its mobile games and do that, or maybe, and I'm sure, and I don't know exactly Microsoft's whole structure, but I'm sure Microsoft already owns at least a couple of mobile gaming companies that do something or another.
Yeah.
They have a big enough mobile department. So who knows? Maybe it's an avenue they explore after they kind of, maybe a couple years from now, once the streaming whole thing gets a little bit more entrenched, maybe it's something they take a look at, but it is definitely part of the conversation as well. This was Activision bought them for $6 billion in 2016. It's a lot of freaking money. That's a little bit of, they've got.
But look at mobile. The mobile market is just a money maker. It's a cash cow for these companies. If they can get something to take off, the amount of, it seems like you can make from a mobile game is more than you can make from a PC game. People are willing to spend money on mobile for some reason, and they rarely will spend a bunch of side money on a PC or a console game.
Yeah. Now a lot of these figures are old. They were a public company until Activision Blizzard bought them in 2016. But, for a period of time, they were pulling down hundreds of millions of dollars a year in profit on these mobile games. That might be something that they apparently they have 12 studios across the country. So, there's some.
It's a pretty big
thing. Yeah. Thousands of employees. So that's pretty big. I guess we'll wait and see that. Anything else going on with the merger stuff that's relevant?
Mainly there were some, one thing I want to mention that was redacted, and this is more on the Blizzard side.
Mm-hmm.
You know how Blizzard, and there was NetEase who supposedly had a big falling out. They destroyed the Blizzard's things they had left in the office when, after they left China.
Yeah.
And supposedly they sued Blizzard, but then it all got redacted because I guess it's probably people in the United States trying to read Chinese documents, but they figured out that they were just listed as something by the complainant. It was just some random guy who sued Blizzard. And then he had mentioned NetEase, and so then all these news companies here grabbed that and said NetEase is suing Blizzard. And so so you may have seen in the past couple of days a news story pop up saying that NetEase is suing Blizzard, but they are not.
NetEase
is some random Chinese guy.
NetEase was an anti-cheat company, right?
No, that's a game game studio type of service over in China. It's one of their they have now, instead, since they got rid of World of Warcraft, they now have some other competitor that they're making.
Yes. They made the Chinese version of Warcraft that was in, and then they stopped that a couple months ago.
And there's some other things that, they actually make quite a bit. They're a pretty big company over there.
Yeah.
And so they make things that we have access to here too, yeah.
Harry Potter, Dead by Daylight Mobile, yeah.
Yeah, so, NetEase, you don't really hear their name as much, but they're a pretty big studio, and they were combining and working with Blizzard to bring some of their products to China.
Gotcha.
They had a falling out, some sort of miscommunication. They couldn't come to the table and come to an agreement. And so Blizzard left China, and NetEase is kind of filling the gap by making their own versions of the games that Blizzard made.
Yes, we shall see how all that rolls out. Japan has dropped an antitrust probe in regards to Microsoft and Activision Blizzard. So it appears that that is no longer an issue. So Japan has kind of stepped out of the way. They'll be good to go. Again, really doesn't leave much left in terms of hurdles It's just securing the bag here in the U.S. And as I've stated since early on, Microsoft has enough lobbyists that they can absolutely can absolutely get it done in the U.S. The $1 million question was always these other countries where they might not have had the influence that they maybe needed. If they needed it, I don't know what.
Well, and here they note one of the arguments that Sony made that kind of started this probe was that Sony said if the deal goes through, Microsoft could release deliberately buggy versions of our games on PlayStation. So I thought that was interesting. And then their answer was, we all know our passionate players would be the first to hold Microsoft accountable for keeping its promises of content and quality parity. So, but yeah, they were trying to just use anything. If they own all of this, they'll release not as good versions and on PlayStation and make it to where you want to play it on PC or Xbox, and it's all pretty silly. The fact that they are releasing their games on your console and you're not, so releasing it on there. So I think as we've seen over the months now, their whole argument has fallen apart, and nobody really takes them seriously anymore. So we'll see if there's anything ever coming of that.
Yeah, so that all appears to be squared away there. I don't know that there's a date set for the FTC. I don't know if they're doing a hearing on it or exactly what's going to happen. But again, presumably within the next 60 or 90 days, we might have something, and by early summer have all of this potentially squared away, which would be pretty remarkable. Speaking of antitrust, Brian, let's turn our conversation to another couple of great companies, Epic and Apple, and see what is going on there. A bit of an appeal process, and it turns out that Apple won, at least in part, on the appeal. A little bit of history and background on this. So Epic had Fortnite in the iOS App Store. They were. I'm a Fortnite expert now. I played 2 games last night, so I'm a professional. I might as well be Ninja. It's fine. They decided that Apple charges 30% transaction fees on any in-app purchases, and you have to use Apple's store to do in-app purchases, part of their EULA, their terms of service, whatever. Tim Sweeney said, screw it, I'm not going to do that. We're going to do it through our own system. They're in breach of Apple's terms. Apple pulled them from the store. Epic sued them and claimed a couple of things. One of the big ones was that they claimed that Apple was acting as essentially a monopoly, which is a pretty big deal. I mean, it sounds like it's not, maybe, but to be deemed a monopoly by the federal government is not. That's a very serious allegation to allege against a company. I mean, it's the equivalent of calling somebody a murderer or a rapist. I mean, it's a very, very serious charge to levy against somebody that has serious ramifications. If the federal
they start
government
breaking you up and they start putting restrictions on you.
Yeah, like if the government goes, hey, Brian, you're a monopoly, you're like, oh my God, like it's over. Like they're going to start ripping our company apart. Like what the hell? So it's a very serious thing to allege, but Tim Sweeney has plenty of money and plenty of axes to grind. So through the court ruling, Apple was decided that Apple would have to allow third-party stores or third-party ways to do some of these transactions on their platform, and potentially even allow third-party app stores. Both Apple and Google appealed the ruling. Epic. It was ruled that Apple was not a monopoly, so Epic challenged that, appealed that ruling, and then Apple appealed the ruling that they should not have to allow other third-party app stores. So the hearing that happened this past week was over Apple being a monopoly. I know it's very confusing, but this is a little bit of the timeline on it, right?
Yeah, well, and here's some things with this ruling that went towards Epic. Because Apple won the appeal, but they said the court upholds Epic's claim under California's unfair competition law. So it's not dropped. It's dropped federally, but it's not dropped in California because that does have different rules. They also said the court used the wrong market definition. It was wrong about whether Apple's DLPA was immune to the antitrust scrutiny, but that this was harmless, and so they upheld that ruling. And then one judge dissented and said that this judge would not conclude that these errors were harmless because they related to threshold analytical steps and affected Epic's substantial rights. And so this person who posted this news, they speculate that this could be a good reason for it to go to the Ninth Circuit review, and see if, I'm sure they'll still appeal and there'll still be more things going on with this. So
yeah, now obviously you can eventually appeal it all the way up to the Supreme Court. I'm not sure how that would work, but the court very clearly affirmed that Apple is not a monopoly. They very clearly made that case. Apple is not a monopoly. So from Apple's standpoint,
if you combined Apple and Android, you could say they're a monopoly.
Maybe, but Apple itself, I mean, they made it very clear, and Apple calls it a resounding victory, which is which is what you would expect them to say. And part of the other some of the other details in this, that Apple must allow developers to steer app users to external payment platforms, which is what Epic has really been after the whole time, but concluded that the company did not meet the legal tests to be considered a monopoly. So does not, and thus did not have to permit competing app stores for iOS apps. So that's kind of where everything is right now. Not a major decision, but enough to make it so that Apple probably is not going to be labeled a monopoly. That's probably done. And then we'll see what some of the other appeals typically might potentially look like. So I know very much in the weeds, but we've been covering this now for years, literally, since it first started. And that's kind of the latest as to where it stands right now.
Yep. All right. Well, hey, let's keep on the topic of Epic, because,
sure.
Of course, Kotaku, the peak of journalism, as they always are. You read this headline, and they says Epic's billionaire CEO jumps on Twitter to complain about elites.
Oh yeah.
And I figured, well, I can only imagine what he was talking about, and that he's not talking about anything crazy. He's talking about the verified badge, and one thing that's interesting is one of the first people to suggest how Twitter do their verification system was Sweeney.
Yeah.
He back years ago. Well, I'd have to look at it. Maybe
no, it is literally years ago. I'll go and find the tweets.
Okay. Yeah, because he suggested and said, hey, this whole system is being abused, the verification system at Twitter. You need to open it up. Nick will find the tweet here, and we can read what he actually says, because what he says is incredibly real. I mean, he's just saying this, and it's pretty much how it ended up being. So do you want to read it to us?
Yeah, these are some more recent posts, but essentially, an online community like this should be a meritocracy where everybody has an equal chance. Merit is earned rather than anointed by a corporation. Old school Twitter had found a great expression of merit with following and retweeting the best rose to the top. And this is, of course, is the outrage over all of these e-celebrities and celebrities, pissed off that they have to pay $8 for a verification badge. And why are they pissed off? Because many of them paid thousands of dollars to Twitter. So what was happening was, at the end of the Twitter verification system, from what I understand, insiders at Twitter, like people that worked there, were charging some mid-tier celebrities, like maybe mid-tier internet celebrities, thousands of dollars for blue check marks on Twitter. They were pocketing the cash and giving them the verification badge. And it was bullshit.
Yep.
I mean, frankly, that's exactly what it was. It was a pay-to-play system to get a verification badge, but it wasn't open to everybody. You had to know somebody at Twitter to get that. So it became an incredibly corrupt system where, you had everybody having these badges that, could afford to pay for one, or actual celebrities. So Elon Musk said anybody now can have it. And it goes back to Tim Sweeney's comments about a meritocracy. It's open to everybody. Yep. Everybody has an equal chance. If you can afford $8 a month, you can have a blue check mark. And that's exactly what Elon Musk has done, and everybody's losing their damn minds over it.
And that's the thing is, here I just think that he he is, and a lot of people give him a hard time, but he is about having an open space. I mean, if you think of
look at this,
what
this
Unreal
is February
Engine
of 2020. Yeah, February 2020. Read his tweet right here, Brian.
Says, I don't want to be verified unless the verification process is open up to everyone on equal terms. Right now, it's a system of doling out our favors to friends of Twitter and using revocation to punish people Twitter doesn't like, which is exactly what happened. This is all pre-purchase, right? This is all
2020, February, before COVID.
Pre-Musk. Yeah.
Yeah,
right at the beginning of COVID.
Yeah.
And so he's saying exactly what we found out, especially after the purchase was all completed and the dirt started to come out. He's saying exactly what was happening. That's exactly what was happening. And in the new system, first of all, the main benefit of people paying to do this is it cuts down on bots, because if they want to truly determine if something is valid or not, you don't trust on just the mere numbers of whatever's coming your way, because you could have bots. They love to spin up bots and do things to affect other people's accounts. But here with the $8, you know that they're not going to be spending $8 per bot, because these people would spin up 10,000s of bots. Yeah. And so it really gives them a way of handling bots and things like that, and have places where the number of people that are verified, when they come and see content or upvote content, you know that it's most likely going to be real. That's really what this comes down to for Elon, because there's bots were running the whole system. That's why they got in kind of big trouble. Well, they were going to be in trouble for lying about the number of bots during the purchase.
Yeah.
So,
and
hey, but would you get that from the title of that article?
No, let's go back and look at the title again. What was the title again?
Yeah, Epic's billionaire CEO jumps on Twitter to complain about elites. No, he complained about corruption and not being equal, treating elite people, people being treated like elites. And he said he doesn't think that they should be treated any differently, regardless of whether or not they're popular or rich or whatever. Like, that's the most down to earth thing you could say, and they're saying to complain about elites.
Don't you love
it's
the
most
sub-headline
backwards article?
Luke Plunkett, if I had $5 billion, you would never see or hear from me again. Yeah, because you're a loser that doesn't have any good ideas.
Because you wouldn't do anything to contribute back to society, right?
That's it. Yeah, exactly. You're an idiot. So, of course, if you had $5 billion, nobody would ever want to hear from you. But when you're somebody like Tim Sweeney or Elon Musk, who is, or both of them are incredibly wealthy and are both revolutionary in the things that they do and have done. It's amazing to see how it's so funny, Brian. Elon Musk was the savior of the progressive left with Tesla for like a freaking decade. I mean, this guy was Jesus Christ reincarnated with his electric cars, and he buys Twitter, and now he's the biggest scumbag that's ever existed. It's so,
I know.
And it's the flip side on the Republican conservative side. Republicans and conservatives, and I still do have huge issues with how he handled big government incentives, essentially funding. He owns Solar City. He bought Solar City, and he's essentially raping the government with Solar City on incentives. I don't like that, but those are the rules. Yeah. And now he is the savior of conservatives and the enemy of liberals. And it's amazing how it's like water and wines, or water and oil and vinegar switching places in the glass, because that's exactly what's happened here.
Well, the thing is, and even if you side with him, because one of the first comments from, and I think this is from staff. Oh, here's from Luke Plunkett himself. For a man of this status and influence, making such sweeping and inaccurate allegations is wild. They're conspiratorial, because he says that he went through the verification process on Twitter, then they all had to be vetted, and they had a whole team of staffers responsible for it.
You know what,
because
though?
He is Kotaku.
Bullshit. Because I applied under the old Twitter for a verification badge, which I absolutely met based on my current job, and they constantly declined me because I didn't know anybody at Twitter, and I was a conservative. I fit the bill of a media person to get a verification, and I'm glad I didn't get it, because then I feel like I have to pay for the $8 a month. Which, by the way, Brian, Okay, we have been on the air now 8 years, maybe more. I don't even know. It's been such a long time. I mean, it's been an incalculable amount of time. I don't do monthly subscriptions. I don't do microtransactions. I am this close, like this close to buying an $8 thing. Not for any other reason, just to flip the double barrel middle finger shotgun to all these people. I don't care about being verified. But damn, I'm so
I almost
tempted.
did it this past week too, and I did it because of the I want to support something.
Yeah.
Put your money where your mouth is, right?
Absolutely.
I like the fact that he's making it to where all these people that used to be like I have a check mark, so I'm important, so you just have to listen to me. And, well, they're all the ones getting pissed, but it makes it to where you really know they're probably a real human.
Yes,
that's what it really comes down to. It's not whether or not they're popular, whether or not they're famous. It comes down to, are they a real human? Okay, if you're a real human, you got to check. I'm more likely to take what you say to heart. If you don't, and usually, you've got some generic picture and the numbers in your name, well, guess what? I probably am not going to really listen to you. And I think that's the culture that it's going to bring in is you get verified so that you're talking to at least someone who's willing to spend $8.
Yeah. So I'm really tempted. For me, it's I don't think people know, and it's probably good that they don't, how much I use Twitter for my job. In the state of North Carolina, there's a hashtag called NCPOL, NC Politics. And this hashtag is like there's literally a podcast called hashtag NCPOL. That's how popular this thing is. I mean, it is a hot hashtag. And I'm on Twitter all freaking day because of it. Between this and all these other things, I'm on Twitter constantly. I mean, it is literally my show prep. So I use the service, and now you've got this guy, Elon Musk, who I tend to like. I don't agree with some of the way that he's done stuff with his prior business, but I'm not marrying him. I don't have to love him. But I tend to like what he's done with Twitter. He's fired 80% of the staff, who are a bunch of progressive activists working there. The service is seemingly running better than ever. Accounts that I have been following for years that have been banned are back, and I'm seeing all of their content again. Damn it, Brian, it's $84 a year for the year's subscription. I'm gonna end up pulling the trigger on this thing sooner rather than later, because I don't know.
When you have that, you're more likely. I think that's where you can get randomly, highlighted. I think that if you're not verified, pretty much only the people that follow you will see your content. I think when you are verified, it has that where it'll go outside of your normal circle.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you this. I had a tweet a couple. I don't tweet really all that much. I tweet, I tweet in the morning at the ass crack of dawn, like literally like 6 o'clock. That here's coming up in my show, and there might be a tweet or two throughout the day. But I'll tell you what, the engagement on the platform has been great over the last couple of weeks. I broke a pretty big story about a guy running for governor a couple of weeks ago, and I mean that tweet got thousands of engagements because it was getting liked and retweeted and quote tweeted and all of that. So it's been pretty cool to see how the platform I think it's changed dramatically. I think it really has. I'm seeing so much more organic content. Now I am still pissed that they got rid of the third-party API, because I hate the Twitter app. I think it's garbage. I'd much rather use Tweetbot. But from an advertising standpoint, I understand it. I mean, all these third-party apps strip the ads, and if you're trying to sell advertising, you need to be able to tell them, here's the reach and here's the hit you're gonna get.
Yep.
So I get that, but I just love how Elon Musk is now the enemy of the people, and Tim Sweeney should shut his mouth because he's a billionaire. I mean, so his opinion isn't matter, but some stupid jackass that works at Kotaku is the arbiter of truth. I don't understand.
Well, and then the other guy, there's another comment on there where this person's breaking down.
Oh, he's from Canada.
How much you
he's
make
from Australia.
in the top. to be in the top 1%. And he's like, this guy has made so much money so fast. You know, he's even, you know, in the higher percentages of that. And say you're saying because he made such good choices and is so successful, you shouldn't listen to this dude. Is that what you're telling me? Because at first I thought it was spam. Yeah, I thought it was, you know, spam. But this guy's breaking down, and if you earn this much, you're in the top 1%, 0.1%, 0.01%. It says if Tim Sweeney earned $10 million every year, he'd have to have worked since birth, never spend any of it, and be 500 years old to be worth $5 billion. Given he's 52 years old on average, he earned at least $100 million in valuation every single year of his life. So they're giving this, and then at the very end, he's like, and this jerk has the gall to talk about elites or cretin. Yeah. What are you talking about? This guy's way smarter than whoever wrote this.
Well, see, here's the thing: if whoever wrote this spent any time actually, you know, having a job, and you know, this comment was made a couple days ago at like 11 p.m. So if this person was actually like, oh, I don't know, and it's so funny with him, Sweeney and Epic, they act like this guy just popped up out of this guy just popped out of the Easter Bunny's ass last week, and he's, I mean, Epic was a freaking mod studio, with Unreal Tournament and all this stuff back 25 years. And this guy's, Tim Sweeney's a freaking nerd that wanted to build video games.
He loves programming.
Yeah, built video
I follow
games
him
25
on
years
Twitter,
ago.
And he'll say some really nerdy algorithm, you know, something that's super crazy, complex, because that's what interests him. He's all about technology. So, but they hate him. Of course, he doesn't know what he's talking. He's a cretin, as he said.
Yeah, it's like this guy's busted his ass for 25 years. It's from a little indie studio making a couple of games to one of the most influential people in the video game industry, and of course they hate him. Why? Because I don't know that Tim Sweeney is a conservative. I don't believe he says anything that's overtly conservative, but he doesn't toe the Democrat liberal line of Elon Musk is a terrible, awful.
He doesn't really talk politics that much.
No, of course not. Why would he?
Yeah.
So if this guy had spent any time putting any of this effort into actually trying to maybe make more money at his job, or maybe do something with his life besides posting in the Kotaku comments section, he probably could be, Brian, in the top 10% of earners. But obviously this is a whole hell of a lot more important.
Okay, hey, so I found this other topic that I wasn't sure what to think of it at first, but the Red Cross is saying that video gamers need to change how they play certain types of like FPS games. They need to follow the real rules of war and get used to that, because they don't like the fact that civilians or that people are getting numb and pretty much learning just the normal way to act, or things that are war crimes. So they want people to follow these rules, and there's 4 rules.
Okay. All right. What are the
rules? First one is no thirsting.
Like thirst traps?
Do you know what thirsting is?
I know what a thirst trap is on social media.
Well, okay, so this is where you would violate real-life rules of war that protect prisoners from violence, intimidation, and treatment.
Oh, no. Now, thirst traps are when girls post...
You can't shoot people when they're down, things like that.
Oh, now thirsting on social media is when women post salacious pictures of themselves just to get likes. It's a thirst trap. They just want reactions. Okay. Well, actually, look at this. It says, I thought this was about Instagram likes at first, but no, this actually means you can't shoot people. Okay, so I'm not alone in my thoughts on this. Okay, so that's the first one. No thirsting.
Yeah, and they don't want you targeting non-violent NPCs. I mean, I don't know how you could play
GTA,
any of the Rockstar games, GTA, Red Dead Redemption, without hurting somebody random.
Wow.
Yeah. So they don't want you targeting any non-violent NPCs in the video games. They don't want you targeting any civilian buildings. So if you have the opportunity to bomb something, to shoot at something, if it's a civilian building, you need to leave it alone in the video game. No blowing up houses, because people live there. You remember that. And you're supposed to use medkits on everyone. So even if you see the enemy sitting there, you're supposed to take your medkit to the enemy and patch them up as well, which depending on, I mean, I'm trying to think of games where that would be possible. But
old H1Z1, you could drop bandages for.
Oh
folks.
yeah, yeah. You could lift somebody up in the old H1Z1. And we did do that. We'd shoot somebody, get them down to a sliver of health, and then give them a med pack after we
handcuff them, bring them to our base, steal their stuff, give them bandages, and kick them out. Correct. I mean, it was very,
so here you go.
Civil.
Have a good day. So those are the 4 rules that you're supposed to follow inside of your video game that you play online.
Now, do we know that who is this being? Now, this is being pushed by a group known as Play by the Rules. Now, this is the International Red Cross, for the record. This is not this is not the company you go. This is not the place you go to give blood. There's 2 different Red Crosses. There's like that Red Cross, and then there's the International Red Cross, which are the folks with the actual Red Crosses that go into war zones. So they've got this website they've set up, playbytherules.icrc.org. Look at this. Look at the graphics. Something from the Epic Marketplace. I mean, yeah, this is some like weird art from the Epic Marketplace with the crosshair going around. This is Call of Duty with this little. This is a hard point in Call of Duty. Look at this. They got some influ. Wait, is there an event going on? Oh, it already happened. April 15th.
Did you know that they created a Fortnite mode to help you learn to follow the rules? There was a special mode. It said, learn to follow real rules of war in-game. And it was a Fortnite mode. I guess that would maybe yell at you when you... Here you go. Fortnite, play by the rules.
Let's see.
Is there a video or what's this thing?
Oh, it's still in here. Add to playlist. So you could still... It's a custom mode. So this is not it's not like a playlist that you can do, but you can play this in like custom games. How the hell is Arma? Are they partnered with Arma of all people?
Well, Arma is all about the super realistic. So there's groups of people that play Arma, and they play it in like they're role playing Arma, to where there's a medic. People are playing their different positions, and this is totally, I could see not maybe the Arma modding, but the people that play the base level of Arma and are really into the real war simulation is what they call it.
Yeah.
I see them totally being down with that.
Wow.
Why would you need a cluster bomb? I mean, you might hurt somebody.
What a waste of time. I mean, this is so stupid. I don't even know.
They have a Twitch channel that you can follow if you want to watch some of these streamers that play the games like this.
Yeah, well, they already did
while following the rules. Oh, yeah, and that was on April 15th. Yeah, so it was 10 days ago.
Wow, 188 views on Twitch. Really, I mean, really just
really
railing it home. I mean, we're not ones to talk, but I mean, still, we're not the International Red Cross either. Huh. Yeah. I can't imagine.
We didn't get a special game mode put in Fortnite for us.
We could make one. I just can't imagine with everything going on, like in the world right now, like actual humanitarian issues, that somebody at the International Red Cross thought that this was worth any sliver of time. That to me is pretty wild.
Well, hey, there's somebody who's with a bleeding heart who's mad at video games because they're too violent.
What do the comments on this one look like? Let's see. 0 comments. Well, obviously, people aren't people aren't chomping at the bit. Now, Kotaku also did an article about it. Let's see what the Kotaku comments look like.
I'm sure somebody.
Holy crap!
Some
There's a video.
Comment.
There's a video. Hold on.
Is there?
It's long, but we're not going to play the whole thing. It's 4 minutes, but we're not going to do the whole thing. Hold on. Let's take a look. This is the International Record. What are the rules of war, Brian? Let's take a look.
Get it.
Since the beginning, humans have resorted to violence as a way to settle disagreements. Yet through the ages, people from around the world have tried to limit the brutality of war. It was this humanitarian spirit that led to the first Geneva Convention of 1864 and to the birth of modern international humanitarian law.
How's that been working out the last couple months?
Setting the basic limits on how wars can be fought, these universal laws of war protect those not fighting, as well as those no longer able to. To do this, a distinction must always be made between who or what may be attacked and who or what must be spared and protected. Most importantly, civilians can never be targeted. To do so is a war crime.
All right, bro, enough. I can't. I mean, I just, yeah, Jesus Christ. That
was great.
Now, there is a comment. Now, this video is 8 years old. The first comment, the top comment on this video is, here are the rules of war. No camping, no friendly fire, no spawn killing, grenade spamming is banned, and no breaking the rules. I mean, I agree.
That's pretty much it.
What now? I'll tell you what. Why does the International Red Cross? What about when a member of Al Qaeda or a member of ISIS blew up 13 service members at an Afghani airfield a little over a year ago? Did the International Red Cross do anything about that? Because I don't think that fit the rule of war either. When they strapped suicide bomb vests to themselves and ran into the airstrip under Joe Biden's watch.
They're not a legitimate army that we're facing. They're not organized in the same manner. So it's kind of like back in the day when you had the French and the English sitting there standing in lines, shooting each other in volley, taking turns shooting at each other, and they did it in a gentlemanly manner. Al Qaeda and all them are not exactly doing it that way. They would just hide and use kids to try to sneak bombs in places and women. All the normal things that you do when you're fighting. So.
Wow.
All right.
Well, wasn't expecting that, Brian. Very, very good. Good deep. That's a good. That's a good deep one right there. That's real in the weeds. I like that. Thank you. Thanks for bringing that forward.
I wanted to come back. Let's go back to the whole Activision Blizzard acquisition, because Sony. There was some. This is a little speculation, but somebody wrote on Gamer Official about how PlayStation could acquire Rockstar Games if Xbox purchases Activision Blizzard. Kind of as a, we're going to take something from you, because Take-Two Interactive, which they're the ones who are the parent company, right?
Of Rockstar, yeah.
Of Rockstar. They announced the pricing of $1 billion senior notes offering, so I would assume, who knows if that means that they're interested in getting
trying to raise some capital
or whatever. Yeah, I mean, this is an opportunity for somebody to buy into their company to get a lot of shares. And so, who knows? Maybe PlayStation will do what they can to get in on this and take control of one of the other biggest, Red Dead Redemption and Grand Theft Auto, two of the biggest games in the last, 15 years.
That would be a disaster. Sony would.
Well,
I'll tell you why.
To the ground.
No, I don't know. That's not the case. They would let it run. They would let the studio run and do its own thing. But because Sony is so vengeful and spiteful, they will make Grand Theft Auto already took like 3 years to come out on PC. Yeah. I own 3 copies of GTA. I've owned 4 copies of GTA 5. Xbox 360, Xbox One, PS4, and PC. I'm fully invested in Grand Theft. My financial advisor goes, "Where's all your assets?" I say, GTA, copies of GTA 5 and shark cards. Those are my assets. It's as good as gold. Copies of GTA 5. But Sony is so vengeful and spiteful, and they're so pissed off about this Activision Blizzard merger that they would make it so that anybody that has an Xbox or a PC would never be able to play these games again because they're jackasses.
It's how they work.
That would happen. Yeah.
Okay, here's an example in the Hogwarts game. Mm-hmm. Do you want to know what Sony got, like their exclusive?
Sure.
Because there was some things that you could only get if you were playing on a PS5.
Okay.
And they purchased the right to prevent players that weren't on PlayStation 5 from getting the Hogsmeade store. There's a store where you can go sell your stuff to make more money on everything that you sell. It's like you're listing them in the store, and you own the store that a house elf runs for you. They, for a year, anybody on other platforms, they don't get that feature for a year from now. That it's kind of crazy that they would come up and such a big feature, they would turn around. I mean, really, in the end, it's not that you're just getting more money. It's more like a perk. You're getting more money for each thing you sell as long as you go there. But I thought that was interesting. It kind of, as the more you learn about Sony and the way that they act, like that fits right in with what they would do. They'd be like, "Oh, that's a cool feature. We don't want anyone else having it for a year and blocking them."
Yeah,
so we'll see. They would do the same thing with Red Dead and Rockstar and everything that they have.
And typically you'll have some exclusives. It'll be for a period of time. For example, for the longest time, Microsoft had it with Call of Duty DLC. The Call of Duty DLC would come out for 3 months or something like that. I mean, it was a period of time, 3 months or something like that on Xbox, and they paid a significant amount of money for that. And and I'm okay with that. Because it's part of how you sell it. Now, at the time, the console to have an FPS on was the Xbox. I mean, that's where everybody was playing first-person shooters, so it kind of made sense. I don't think Sony. Maybe this is my blinders and my rose-colored glasses, but I've been very consistent. I don't believe Microsoft has bad intentions. I believe Sony has bad intentions. I really do. I think they are so pissed about what has gone on in the last couple of years, how their console has outsold the Xbox, yet somehow they are losing. I mean, that's literally what we're talking about. They blew the Xbox One or the Xbox S and X or whatever it's called out of the water in terms of sales, like over 1 million units more. And
but Microsoft's still
losing.
Somehow bringing in more money in the end.
Yeah, Microsoft,
because it's a subscription service.
It's
people
a power
will buy
play.
People buy a couple of PlayStation games. For instance, there were certain PlayStation games that I have, and then that's I would buy it and then I'd play it and then I'd stop doing the PlayStation. I think there's a lot of people like that because of their exclusives. They've gotten themselves into this corner where people have a PlayStation to play certain games and then they go back to their Xbox because they have the Game Pass.
Yeah.
Sony hasn't brought anything to the table that's competitive in that way. Even though they have a huge library, they just have made their products that are equivalent not very good. And they've always been just not quite right, with their game streaming, even with their PlayStation Plus plan. It was odd. Like I didn't feel like I wanted to play the games on that service for some reason because of how they did it. But I think Microsoft has made it to where it feels like Netflix, but for games. You go in there, there's a ton of games. Which one do I want to play? Oh, maybe I can stream it and I can play it instantly, or maybe I'll download it and internet connections are fast enough now to download something within a reasonable amount of time, usually. So I think that they're just mad about losing.
I'm not quick enough here on the air to do this, but it's the meme of the kid at the bicycle with the stick. And it's him, Sony sticking and going, freaking Microsoft. And it's like, they rolled out
themselves.
They rolled out this half-assed the PlayStation Plus plan or whatever they called it. That was way more expensive than Game Pass. The tiers made absolutely no sense at all. The catalog was garbage, and then they had to rescind it. They had to rescind it. Now they're bringing it back, and it's like, what the hell are you guys doing? This is nobody else's fault but their own. Really, I mean,
it's
honestly,
been something that's been happening. It's been something that's been happening over the years. I think they just didn't see. I don't think they saw the Game Pass and all that being as successful as it ended up being. Because they didn't come up with anything that was competitive enough to make you even think, well, maybe I'll go and check out what PlayStation has. I got the PlayStation first. Remember when I got it? I got it for The Last of Us and the original Red Dead Redemption. And playing the original Red Dead Redemption was a pain because I had to do it through like a service, streaming it. I couldn't play it on my local console.
Yeah.
It was very odd. And so Microsoft stuff just doesn't work like that. Usually if they have it working on the Xbox, they have it working on PC as well. And that probably means they stream it. It's only maybe third-party titles that don't usually have compatible with everything. So.
Yeah. Now here's the thing. I'm not sure that Take-Two is I'm not sure that Take-Two is interested in selling.
Yeah, I mean, my worry is that you'll have Chinese investors, whatever it's Tencent or whosoever, might be buying large percentage shares, getting majority stakeholder, get enough of a majority here to where they start listening and changing how they act. I already feel like there's a possibility that GTA, but you can't really rely on on the articles about it, because most of them don't even know. But they keep saying that this is going to be a more woke version. They're going to have a non-violence mode and all this. I just really hope not, because I think that'll be the downfall, especially with the new Unreal Engine's ability to make things that are ultra realistic. People can make things that are on par with what Rockstar can. It's a lot of work, but they can now. Where before there was no opportunity. The technology wasn't there, and they were making things that wasn't unavailable. Now it's in everybody's hands. If they stumble this, you'll have some other company come in and make something. I mean, companies are already making things kind of like GTA, but it's the old GTA. Well, let's see what they come out with now. And if someone can come out in a year and make something equivalent, they're in trouble because they wait so long between new games.
Here it is.
There you go.
Sony, our own failures, freaking Microsoft. That's it. That's it. And I'm not convinced that they wouldn't do the same thing with Take-Two.
Yep.
I tell you want to talk about now, if Microsoft tried to buy Take-Two, we might be approaching antitrust territory at that point. I mean, they literally own everything. I mean, outside of Ubisoft, and
everything
EA.
with the top biggest games in the last 20 years. Microsoft owns them, but
but again, this all comes down to, and what I find so odd about this whole thing is physical hardware, like consoles, have never been a profitable venture. Even you go back to the early, well, maybe the early consoles are a different story, but with the PlayStation 2 and the original Xbox,
ever since
N64,
CD-ROM drives were put into them, it seems like it's ever since they had to put a CD-ROM drive in there, the amount of money that they make, it was way different.
It had to be, because you had to subsidize. These things are, at the time, you look at the N64 when it came out, the 3D console. I mean, the thing was freaking crazy. You go from a 2-bit, essentially an 8-bit system to this thing, and it's like freaking wild. They had to subsidize the cost. The only way you get it in a household. I mean, nobody's going to spend $1,000 on a console.
Well, they were starting to put Blu-ray players, and back when they originally put the Blu-ray
PS3,
player in there, that was brand new. Yeah. That was something that by itself would cost over $100 to buy alone.
No, way more than that, Brian. At the time, Blu-ray players were like $600. They were ridiculous.
Oh, well, then that was early,
Yeah.
So
that was the
but the thing is they were putting something in there. Yeah, they were putting something in there that just to buy that one piece was huge. And I think that made it to where people were all of a sudden willing to pay more for a console than they would have in the past. And now they're still pushing the limits. I mean, just look at what type of a computer is in a PlayStation or an Xbox Series X, for instance. That it's a lot of high speed and expensive hardware, and as you said, they don't really make any money off of it. So it's not the amounts of consoles that you sell; it's the number of games that you sell that's important.
Yes,
and that's where Microsoft, with these subscriptions, it's the equivalent of people buying a game a month, maybe, or a game every 2 months, all year round. Well, you're not doing that. The average person is not doing that on a PlayStation. I think that's where it really comes back and hurts them.
Yeah, the console market has never been a big moneymaker. It's always been the games. Yeah, we saw it. This whole thing with gaming, we have watched happen in real time with Redbox, Blockbuster, and home video stores. We saw how Netflix had stripped that away, and how Hulu and Amazon Prime and every other service has done it. And it's amazing to me that Sony completely missed. Somebody high up at Sony must have been adamant that this wasn't going to be the future. That's the only thing I can
now look at. First, let's talk about another console, Nintendo.
Yeah.
Nintendo is one who doesn't tend to put out a ton of consoles. They put out the Switch, but look at how long it's been since another Switch has come out.
Yeah, no kidding.
But they have this new Mario movie that came out a couple of weeks ago. That thing's been going crazy. If you look at, it's the highest grossing video game movie ever.
Yep.
And they took, and so you want to talk about how to subsidize making games. It's not about selling the hardware. Make a game that's good enough and has iconic enough characters to turn around and make movies and shows off of them. I mean, The Last of Us is something that I don't know the money necessarily goes to Sony because it's a Naughty Dog game, but that would have been the way to make money.
It's another revenue, yeah, and they've done a great job with that. And it's always been the thing with Nintendo is everybody always tries to say, oh yeah, Xbox 360, PS3, and Wii, and it's like, well, really Xbox and PS3. The Nintendo was always out doing their own thing, kind of being fringy.
Hardware was always out of date.
Oh God, it was awful.
By the time they got it out the market, the thing was super old hardware.
It was like PS2 level hardware. And it came out in like 2008. Yeah. I mean, it was not good at all. Yeah. But it's still the best selling video game console of all time. Because they just do their own thing, and that's what presumably Sony could have done. That's what Microsoft did with streaming. They became the niche. They became the streamer. Like they there was all these services back in the day. Oh God, there was that little box that you could buy. I don't remember what it was called, and it was the streaming box. This is like 2010, 2012. The Ouya or something like that. I think that's what it was called. It was this little orange box, and that was going to be the video game streamer. And over the last couple of years, you had NVIDIA really with their GeForce Now, doing its thing, and then you had these companies essentially renting out Windows virtual machines where you'd remote in and stream
the screens to you.
Yeah. And then, Microsoft said, all right, they've been working on, it was called xCloud for years. Yeah. And they've been demoing it and this, and then you had Stadia, of course, with some of their stuff and Google streaming games online. And they kind of set themselves into the market. And probably
I feel like they played the long game a lot more.
They did.
Yeah, I feel like they played the long game to where there's too many short-term thinking. Whether it's with Sony, I don't hear of these things that it seems like they change direction too much. Mm-hmm. They haven't had a consistent long-running product when it comes to the PlayStation Plus and the PlayStation Now and the PlayStation whatever it was called before. They're drastically different products. There's nothing I feel like they've been refining for the past 15 years. But where Microsoft, they may not talk about it very much, but they're sitting there working on something for quite a long time.
And I think a lot of this comes down to Phil Spencer. I mean, Phil Spencer essentially is Xbox, and they I don't know anything about the inside workings of Microsoft, but from what I gather, he essentially has free reign to do whatever he damn well pleases. And that has proven to be at times very good, at times not so good. The Xbox One is not a good console. I mean, it just wasn't. So that is kind of what we're dealing with.
All right. Is there anything you wanted to cover before we headed out?
No, I think we are good to go.
All right, cool. Well, if you want to find me on Twitter, you can go to Boise Computer, or of course you can go to my blog, biteoftech.com. If you want to find me on other social networks, search for @Brian Aldridge, Gab, True Social Getter. If you want to go to our website, infectionpodcast.com, just go to the upper right-hand side and you'll see where it says join our server on Discord. We've got a Discord where you can submit news topics to our show news channel, and we also have 11 ARC servers running that are all connected. So if you want to go check those out, you're more than welcome to. And we have a politics channel if you want to go in there and talk politics. But if you want to play some ARC and not have to deal with that, you can choose your role at the beginning. If you want to go and watch this podcast, you can use that through Twitch, YouTube, and Rumble. If you want to listen to it, you go to the lower right-hand side. There's a lot of platforms and different ways to listen to the podcast. Pick whatever's most convenient for you. Those, of course, are uploaded after the show is completed. So if you're doing that, that means that the particular show notes for that episode are ready to go. So you can jump onto our website. There's a video and audio player built into that page, and you can follow along. So maybe you're listening and you want to check out a video that we were playing on the screen, or maybe the video that we started playing during this one. You want to watch the rest of it. Just jump into our show notes and you'll be able to check that out for yourself. So, yeah, if you want to support us, there's a support menu option up top, or infectionpodcast.com/support.
Oh, look at that headline logo. That looks great.
Logo headline. Something.
Yeah, that's phenomenal. I don't know how the support tab got redone. It's pretty interesting.
Nice.
Great. What else got redone? Oh, that worked. That worked. Huh. The more you know. Brian, thanks as always. Greatly appreciated, and we'll catch up with you next week.
We'll talk to you later.
If you guys want to follow me, you can follow me over on Twitter, maybe with a blue check mark coming soon. Maybe not. I don't know. $8 is a lot of money. We'll see. You can follow me over there at Nicholas M. Craig. You can check out my daily antics by visiting my website, nickcraig.com, or downloading the Wilmington's Morning News podcast. Of course, if you missed any portion of this show, as Brian said, head on over to our website. It's infectionpodcast.com. Thank you so much for joining us, everybody. Have a great week. We'll see you next time.